All right, then. Here we are, and I didn't test that before we did it.
Can we make ourselves bigger?
I just eat some more pie.
Okay. Alright.
There's Duncan's making a Minecraft map. It's a secret. Surprise.
No. Don't you dare tell Linus.
I don't dare.
Any of my friends.
Do I dare? Is that Berenstain Bears book, right?
Yeah, except for the peach. Do I dare eat a peach?
Nope. That's the love song of Jeff from Proof Rock.
It's different than Berenstain Bears.
It is.
Berenstain Bears and too much
I
poetry.
think I'm getting a bit lax.
Yeah, any. No, I'm kidding. I like poetry.
They have these little rhymes at the beginning.
Poems, they have the rhymes all the way through.
Some of them do, but
sometimes
sometimes
I
it's
know.
like, when small bears go to grandma's house and blah 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 and things rhyme.
I turn my axe back. I got a crick in my neck. Don't put it on my sweet faux hug.
Put it on your neck.
Okay. All right.
are we talking
Let's get
about?
into this thing. What was the title of it? It was long.
Why is virtuousness
Now we're talking poetry.
good?
No. What? No. Right. We used virtuous because I didn't want to use good because I meant good as in good, not good as in well.
Can I be signed up?
So why, if the job of parenting is as virtuous as it seems, why is it so hard? In that it should feel more rewarding. If the job of parenting is as important as it seems, why is it ever so easy? So it's a real. You can talk yourself into being upset all day, every day.
Alright, well where were you playing ahead with that topic?
So mostly I just wanted validation that other people feel that way. I'm not sure that's the case. I don't know if it's just me in this
Vacuum.
weird depression cycle or not. And oddly, you are not really a great person to talk to about this. Most things you're super engaged with, and I think we have very similar perspectives on, but I don't think you grasped this perspective.
Well, we can
so
talk
strongly.
about why that is.
Why is that? Is it true? Am I wrong?
I'm not sure what you're saying, so I'm not sure I can comment whether I agree or not.
Do you think you understand what I'm saying
Nope.
with the title? So, at any point through parenting, have you felt this? This is very broad. I feel like a psychic. Have you felt that it was too difficult? Like this shouldn't be so hard, and homeschooling in particular, this shouldn't be so hard because I know it's the right thing to do, right? If it's the right thing to do because it's a good thing.
But you make the assumption that doing the right thing is easy, and that's not true. Often doing the right thing is hard. You gotta stand up to the crowd. You gotta go against the flow. You don't want to take the easy way out.
Any other cliches?
That's all I got right now. Let you know if another one comes.
So I guess what I'm thinking is that there are people that find their profession, which is my most appropriate analogous thing linked to the rest of humanity, find their profession fulfilling because it is a profession that does good, right? That exists.
Right, but that doesn't mean their profession is easy.
Explain.
Well, teachers, since we're talking about school, teachers in this country get the stereotype of working really hard. I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm just saying that they put in long hours, they do things after they're off the clock, like they're grading in extracurricular activities, they spend their own money so that they have crowns and Clorox wipes and whatever.
Sure.
And yet, that is a very rewarding job, but it is certainly not an easy job.
Right, but does it feel good?
I would assume some
You're a
people
teacher.
teach
She's
for a
a
long
teacher.
time. But I'm not that kind of teacher.
You don't put in the extra.
I don't put in the extra. No, but I feel like I am more adequately compensated than K through 12. So
Sure.
I don't want to put myself in that boat because I think that's a whole different ballgame.
Would you say that you get something out of your job? You get to the end of a semester and those students have sure learned a thing and you feel that you have accomplished something
Yeah.
that is beyond just having worked.
Yes, but that doesn't mean my job is easy.
Right. That's true.
Like,
so I guess when I think to what validation I don't receive that I think other people do, it is at any point a sort of, or at least in the period that I'm talking about, a like divine satisfaction with the job I've done. At no point did I feel that I could pat myself on the back and say we did it.
why?
Because it was always and is still there, right? Like,
But
it doesn't end.
I mean, but there are little things, like Linus uses terminology like synonym and homonym and metaphor, which he obviously learned from you. So why can you not pat yourself on the back for those things? I mean, sure, they're not fully formed human beings that have a profession and can support themselves, but neither do I graduate people. I just teach them a little something about biology, and they're like, hey, I understand my grandma's colon cancer, and I'm like, I've helped you in some way. Pat myself on the back for that.
That's gotta be pretty satisfying.
So should Linus saying, hey Dad, I've got a metaphor, and using that correctly. Speaking of Linus, I have to check on him.
She didn't just jump out the window. The window's open and it creates a bit of a vacuum there. It's kind of creepy. Yeah, so she's just described to me that all of my feelings are invalid and I should just correct it. Oh, she's back. She's asleep. He's asleep. I was just covering how you said all my feelings are invalid. So we should just...
Did I?
Oh yeah, you said that, no, you shouldn't feel that way. Because it's a stupid thing for you to do, you stupid. Were those exact words? Can we'll roll this back or something?
Computer replay last 5 minutes. I think your point was if I agreed with you. I don't agree with that statement. I don't agree with the assumption that if something is good, virtuous, whatever, that it is or should be assumed to be easy.
Okay, so now I guess I have to amend it and or go back to what brought the statement on, which is the feeling that and maybe it's the option to opt out, right? So we've chosen to homeschool, and today is hard, and yesterday was hard, and tomorrow may be hard. So is this the right thing to be doing?
So the question is, what I'm doing is hard. Is it really the right thing to do? Not, I know this is the right thing to do, but it's hard.
Right. Am I trying to dig through stone when I've got,
right,
something not as hard as stone? She's a geologist, I don't know. Sand. That's a metaphor. I taught my kids what those are. So that's what I'm saying, right? The opt-out is what always, I'm constantly, or was constantly, because then there's the second part of the statement, which is where I feel at more now that my humans are older.
I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I don't know, does that statement stand alone? I agree with if something is hard, you should think about if it's really the right thing to do. I agree with that statement.
Okay. But I don't know how to come to a conclusion with that thought, right? Well, you don't ever get to a conclusion until you get to the end of it.
Here's where we are massively different people. Okay? You and I. Because once I make a decision, I trust that is the right decision to have made, or I accept that we are not going to unmake that decision unless there is a huge amount of evidence that indicates that. So when we decide that we're going to homeschool,
sure,
we're going to homeschool because we thought through that decision and we made that decision, and so that is the right decision for our family at this time, and we're not going to second guess that because that wastes time and energy, and I don't have that to spare unless something comes up later that situations have massively changed and we need to revisit whether this is the right thing to do or not.
Okay. Whereas I'm comfortable revisiting the thought over and over and over again.
Yeah, can I ask you a question?
And that's a character thing. Yeah.
Would you apply the same line of thought to our marriage?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I do.
I mean, do you revisit that often?
It's never hard enough for me to think about it.
Okay.
No.
Good answer.
So, no, but seriously, I would imagine that I think about our marriage often.
Wait,
Does
is
that
that a
make
question
sense?
mark?
No, it is a bit of a question mark. I don't know, why'd you pick marriage?
I don't know,
There's a
because
lot
it's
of baggage with it.
yeah, but it's another major life decision,
Sure.
and it's definitely one that I made completely trusting that I had made the right decision, and it's not a thing that I have ever
It'd be really hard to just not be
looked
married
back
to you.
onto. All right, well, I'm
So,
glad that
Risk reward,
Okay,
you know.
that's good. Glad that
Not
divorcing me
committed
would be
here.
difficult, and so that's where we're at.
No, so yeah, I don't know. I guess.
Well, I was trying to think of other, besides homeschooling, besides other major life. I guess being a
Right.
surrogate took up a good chunk of time and energy, and that was a thing that I feel like we made that decision, and
It'd be super hard to not be a surrogate once you are halfway
You're kinda-
through. Choose a surrogate.
you're
We
kind of
haven't covered that.
committed.
Right. Yeah, and so maybe that's also it. So the not just
Or breastfeeding.
with yes. So
I
there
mean,
you
that-
go.
that was
I have
kinda-
no contact. Like I can't connect to that, but it's something that
Well,
you could
no,
choose to
but-
stop doing pretty easily.
Yes, but when I went back to work, that was commitment on both of us. That you were driving a baby instead of like me pumping and you bottle feeding and whatever. Like that was a decision we made, and we did it, and it wasn't necessarily easy.
Right.
But
And it may not have necessarily been the right way to do it. 'Cause I don't know how to feed a child a bottle now.
well, that's true. That's
Grown
one of those
man, 2
big.
children.
How many times do people hand you a baby in a bottle?
It happened more a while ago when we were in the phase of, like when the kids were young and I was around other people who had children that may be taking a bottle.
You should totally just. It's like they hand you the baby in the bottle, and they're like, "Can you feed the baby?" You know how you react to that.
I shaved my nipple.
No, you put the bottle down, you lift up your shirt, and you see what kind of reaction the wife did. I don't know.
I don't think
How
I
much
should
is
have
it to feed a
oblivious.
baby? I'm just saying,
No, yeah. So,
don't do that.
gosh, I'm way off track now. We're talking
Major
about
life
breastfeeding.
decisions.
Major life decisions and trying to find
Making a
comparisons.
decision, and it's difficult, but it's the right one. So, are there other decisions that you revisit often because they're a struggle?
Not really. I'm pretty content with where things are, and I'm more or less proud of life choices. So I don't know that there's anything that I come back to and say this is not satisfying enough. I think in regards to the education thing, I couldn't see where we.
Hey, we got Mom back.
Hey.
Hey, whoa, wait, it's so loud. Do I turn the volume on my phone down to turn it down?
Yep.
Oh, goodness. Y'all are really clear.
The whole hotel would like to hear about the roundup, too.
I believe it. Maybe I'm on speaker somehow? Is that possible?
I don't know.
Okay, now it's getting dimmer. I hope so.
Well, I
Okay, can
started
you hear-
whispering.
All right,
Made me
also, full
uncomfortable.
disclosure, we are streaming on the internet.
She just stopped talking. She's gone.
She's not gone. I'm just saying, like, don't put out,
If you
Okay,
feel the urge
so-
to recite your social, stop.
don't do that.
Okay. All right. So I'll just talk about what is the topic tonight.
Oh, it was. So it was a very long statement. I'm going to not remember it again. It was, if the job is this virtuous, why does it feel so difficult? And what was the second part of it?
If the job is so important, why is it easy?
Right. Why is it so easy? In regards to
Parenting.
parenting,
Homeschooling.
homeschooling in particular. So I remember when the boys were younger, and not so much now, but still sometimes, that it was just like every day felt hard, not satisfying, no progress. And so if it was the right thing to do, why was it feeling so not great? And then now,
Okay.
if if it's so important, why does it feel like I'm not investing a tremendous amount of effort into it now? We're just living our life at this point, and it feels easy. So.
Okay, that's interesting.
And so I guess my first thought was trying to confirm or not if that perspective is, I mean, obviously it wouldn't be universal, but is it prominent? Like, did you ever feel at some point that there was a shift between, or if you ever did feel that it was difficult, but did you ever feel there was a shift that now this is a little bit easier? Maybe, like all the effort that you had been putting in or energy you had been putting in doesn't have anywhere to go?
Well, I think that the first years could be easier if we lived in a culture where we could just live our lives and have our babies and children with us. Like, first of all, a simple example is that if you're driving in a car, you have to put your baby in a car seat for them to stay safe. And many children do not want to be in a car seat. And it's difficult to wrangle a 2-year-old whose arms and legs are perfectly standing out stiff. You can't bend them to get them in there, and then they keep screaming. And all of that is very stressful. And it feels like a momentous task to walk out the house because you have to get them into this car seat. And for some reason, we have to take all this stuff with us. Whereas if we live in a society where you just put your baby on your back and carry your water bottle and walked across the town to visit a friend who had food so you didn't need to do that, I think it would be much easier. So I think part of it is where we live and the expectations that everyone else around us has about how children behave. So that if you're in a place and you've gotten there, your child is, say, picking things up in a store and putting them back, some people might frown at you, or the child, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
So I think that, I guess I feel like when I had small children, if I kept myself surrounded by people who were parenting the same way, it was a whole lot easier. So that helped a lot. Yeah, because I don't think that just because something's important, that it's supposed to be hard. I don't know.
Sure. So I
mean, I think, yeah.
So I guess the statement came from the idea that I think it's just that I had all of this energy, even if it was just not effort, but like just anxiety surrounding stuff. And then it wasn't quite a switch, but it really does feel like I went from all of that, everything is difficult, and I have all this nervous energy, to we're going to wake up and we're just going to figure out what happens, and the day's going to be okay. And so it just felt like a gigantic drop off it wasn't even progress anyone else made. It just seemed that like we were in a place where things were difficult, and then I became satisfied with where we have arrived, and now everything feels too easy. Like I'm not putting in the same effort.
So it sounds like maybe that part of it was within yourself, like how maybe your attitude switched somehow, like suddenly, and I can remember that. I can remember like feeling really stressed that, oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing here? And do I need to try to force my child to do more something, or are they just going to be a bum lying on the couch all the time? I'm projecting, and then realizing, stepping back and think, well, what's really important, and being able to relax about things more. And a supportive environment makes a huge difference.
I think that's one of the things that I've gotten. And it was, I mean, I guess over the summer, I had not a lot of contact with the homeschool community, and I was feeling kind of crummy. But these first couple of school year months, everybody has been more active. I've seen a lot more familiar faces, and I just feel more content with everything across the board. And it certainly is not because we're doing more work.
No, and I think you're right. I mean, when my children were where your children are, I had the things I was involved in were with the same people. There was the homeschooling group, who were also part of my food co-op, who are also fellow La Lake League leaders. And so the kids were almost, I mean, we weren't really living in a community, but it felt like a community because we got together frequently. And the children had not just each other, but they became very comfortable with the parents who were also doing things the way I was. And so you didn't have conflicts. And so, I mean, there were conflicts, but it's not somebody telling you that your children are going to grow up to be brats if you don't tell them no more often. You know,
right.
I wasn't with people like that. When I was sometimes, then I had to take several days of venting to everyone around me and to kind of detox myself from it. So, yeah, I agree that your community of people has grown. When your children were much younger, you didn't have many people with children that were in your age group when they were like 3 and 5 or 2 and 4. You had people that had older children, and you probably got a lot from that, but you didn't, as I recall, you didn't have a whole lot that age, so that's helping too. That you have a bigger community.
Yeah, it's been really, that is, thinking about it, I think that's been a big deal. And even when they were young, mostly what I needed when they were young was stuff for me. And I don't know if that just has something to do with being social or not social. Mari, do you think you would require the same things I require if you were the stay-at-home person?
No.
Good answer. Covered that. Okay.
No, Mari might require.
So when the boys were little, I would come home and you go out, and it was either game night or 40K at the store, or I'm just going to go to the store to hang out, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like you needed adult time because little kids are not really human beings conversationally, and I got that. But I think if I had been a stay-at-home parent, I would have needed to take a book and go to Panera for an hour.
Sure.
So I think I would have needed time away from the children, but I don't think it was the same type of time that you needed. And I definitely don't need any friends that support me in my parenting style, because when I make a decision that I think is the right decision, I stand behind that and I move on until there's evidence to the contrary.
Huh.
As we covered in the first half of the roundup when my mother was not here.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I'm just bringing it back.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, you're bringing it back, so I know we don't have to talk about that again, right?
Right.
Well, I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, I guess that's interesting. That I don't know. I guess it's always interesting to find that when you feel you're doing a thing right, there are people out there that are also doing a thing right and completely opposite from you.
So, but here's a thought that I just thought of. Breastfeeding in public.
Okay.
This was a trick that I picked up when I was breastfeeding in public, and it carried on to having toddlers that don't behave particularly well in public, and now with children that sometimes dress interestingly at church.
Linus or doesn't have a nice tie on.
And a button-down shirt, and a polo shirt, and anyway. But
wait, you had two shirts on?
Two shirts.
Two shirts
and a tie. None of the.
Okay. It was 1980s.
None of the shirts should have had a tie.
Okay.
My point is, when I breastfed the children, I didn't look at anybody else.
Right.
And when the kids were having a meltdown, I didn't look at anybody else. Like, it's just me and them, and that is all that matters, because I knew I was doing the right thing. And other people might give you dirty looks, or maybe even poisonally say something, but I knew that what I was doing was right, and it didn't matter what other people thought. So don't make eye contact. That's my.
Well, you know, that's interesting, because all of those things you're describing, I don't think bothered me when my children were young. Like, I think that I handled the meltdowns pretty well. I think I could have done more to prevent them, but once they happened, I felt like I did fine with them. And certainly I breastfed in public a lot. And, you know, older kid, I mean, oh my gosh, I had children going around in all kinds of clothes a lot. And part of it was my lack of fashion sense, but they also wore costumes. So I think I'm trying to think of the things, like I talked about the person who parented differently. It was only when I spent a lot of time with a particular person that I might have doubts. But once I was out in public or something, that, I don't know. I think it was more ground, but I think it helped me to have the group behind me. When people no, not just the group, but like I love it when I read books that I don't really learn much from, except that this author who sounds great is saying everything that I did or thought. And I don't know, maybe I'm just not as sure of myself or something.
I get a lot of my validation from external sources. And it sounds like Mari does not need that. And that
right.
is I don't know, I'm comfortable saying, or I'd be comfortable agreeing to the idea that is a much healthier way to live your life. I don't know if that's actually the case, or if it's just a different way to do it.
I think it makes me more vulnerable to being a dictator. But other than that, I think it's a healthy. I'm just
you're
saying.
reasonable.
Well, yeah, but
you don't
like,
always feel you're right. It's not that you're
I
a
always feel I'm
sociopath.
right.
That's not true. I have convinced you many times that you could change your perspective on a thing. You are very open to things.
Yes.
But you also just you have all this internal motivation, and you feel that no one needs to compliment you. If you made a good dinner, you eat the dinner and it tastes good, you don't need me to say, this tastes delicious, honey.
Words of affirmation are not my love language.
No.
Oh, it is mine. I think it's my top one.
Well, you're wonderful.
That's what it is. Well, thank you, Russ. That makes me feel... But you know what, Mari, making that statement and having read that book, The 5 Love Languages, if anybody doesn't know that book, but it never, in that book, all of the love languages were treated equally. Like, none of them are better than others. And at least that's the impression I got. It just emphasized how different we all are. So for those of us who really thrive on words of affirmation, that doesn't mean that we're dependent on other people necessarily. It just is how we feel love from people. So I don't know.
So you're referring to whether it's a healthier thing to live the way Mari lives or to live the way I do.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And
right.
So I don't know. I remember at some point I was doing yoga and talking about with a homeschool person, because I've done sometimes people ask me to do things, and I encourage them by attending. But I was like doing yoga and writing journal entries on stuff, and I was praise addicted was the terminology. And obviously with that terminology, if you say praise addicted, that sounds worse than words of affirmation or my love language.
But I think
it
is two different things. I mean, I think a love language is just how you're processing the way that people communicate their appreciation for you. I think praise addicted is part of your motivation for doing something, and your internal validation for is what I'm doing right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's possible I don't even have a love language that is words of affirmation. I'm just praise addicted. It's possible that both are true. It's not possible that I'm not praise addicted.
Let's draw a Venn diagram, get that sorted out.
I have a pen right here.
That is interesting. Well, I don't know, but do you feel like praise addicted? Do you feel like you're motivated because you want people to praise you or like you, or
that's why I post
something?
stuff on Facebook.
That's not true. I don't post things on Facebook. No, yeah, well, so through the process of the thing, I trying to find out why I'm not a more prolific writer. was the idea, or was what my goal
Oh,
was.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
With the result being I needed to write a thing, and then I needed to deliver it to somebody and have that somebody appreciate it for the greatness that it is. And then once it's been appreciated, I can rest, and I'll never need to complete that piece. I've got this thing that it's provided me with what I
That's
want.
interesting.
Is that why you switched from writing to making lasagna?
I wouldn't call that a direct swap. I don't think that's right.
I'm just saying, like, now you make lasagna, you give it to people and they appreciate it, and then you feel good.
This is making me feel so much worse.
Okay, so wait a minute. But that might be a good thing to discover about yourself.
Oh.
No,
I mean, all it means is maybe that you're not really driven to write. Like, maybe that's not the thing that you thought it was whenever, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And maybe you just thought it was.
Right, yeah.
but you enjoy writing.
I enjoy having written a thing.
You enjoy having written, well, okay. But you also enjoy, like, you enjoy literature. Like, you enjoy poetry and well-written books, and you find the way that a sentence is made in a book and recognize that for what it is more than I do. So I don't think it's just I like to write. Like, I think you appreciate literature, and part of that appreciation is also writing.
Right, but I think that there are other things that I see you do that I think you enjoy while you're doing. Like building the table in your big room. I mean, designing and doing that, or when you're creating something. I think that while you're doing it, you really enjoy it and you're motivated. You were not motivated to make that table because you liked all the praise. The praise is nice, but that, I don't know. I think that you're making things because you really enjoy it.
So that's true, but I also make the table the same way I write. In that if you look underneath it, it has not been sanded or stained. The table is not even remotely done. So I could just be a person that doesn't follow through on things, and that's a reasonable character flaw I'm willing to accept. If I have molded my life around having people say good things about me,
I don't think that's true.
then I'm not. So what Mari just said, that the switching to making lasagnas, which I guess is a narrow way to say what I've decided to do, which is at every opportunity, as long as I don't take away from my family, I'd like to provide for my community. On the smaller scale, I just want to be a person that makes the area around me better. So someone just has a baby, I'm going to bring them some food. Somebody needs a thing, I'm going to go do that. You know, like that is my goal. So now Mari has made me feel like it is an ugly thing for me to do.
That's not. No.
That's not true, Russ.
But
no, I think you are. Yeah. Okay, go on, Mari.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of laughing as you describe that because it's taken me a really long time compared to you, age-wise, to realize that what I really get a tremendous amount of joy in is doing something not on a regular basis, but there's a problem, or a situation, I can do something to help it, let me do it right now and take care of it. And I really thrive on that. And it took a long time to realize that. I'm no good at the things where you have to do something like remember to call somebody every now and then or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
or even do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at that.
Right, so I think that
they don't. It's completely different recipes every time.
Yeah, you're right. You know, it feels real. In fact, I'm trying to think. It seems like when Jessica called me out of the blue, 3 months after she'd called me last, and she says, "Oh, Sharon, how you doing?" And I start to. She said, "Well, I really want to talk, but I've got a favor to ask. Could you give me a ride pick up Lila this afternoon?" Well, I was thrilled that my calendar was empty enough that I could say, "Yes, I can do that." Like, okay, here's somebody with a need, and I can fill it. And I think that that those of us who really enjoy doing that really do make a difference in the community. The other thing is that I have not often, but over the years, being the spouse that did not do much to contribute financially to our family, I mean, I did a little bit, but doesn't really amount to a hill of beans. But I was volunteering and doing things in the community that Roger might have done some, but he didn't have the time and energy to. And so I think that as a family unit, I was contributing for our family also out in the community, which I think is a very important thing. So that made me feel good too. So I feel like, you know, and especially being at home with the boys, when you are helping somebody, you know, like when you help somebody load their furniture up, or you, I don't know, I've done various things, the boys go along with you.
Yeah.
Or, you know, then they're seeing this. They are seeing that this is a way that people treat each other and makes the world a better place. And it makes a difference. So you're going to volunteer at the polls for me on election day, right? That's completely not the same thing.
I will. I enjoy sitting there and talking to people.
Well, good, because I'm the poll captain, and so I've got some hours that aren't filled yet.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Now I've committed publicly.
Well, there you have it.
Here, I think is an important difference. Is why you're doing that. Because if your motivation is internal, in that I want to help my community, this is the right thing to do, then it doesn't matter if people give you words of praise or gifts or acts of service or whatever in return. Like, you did the thing because you thought it was the thing to do. Versus if your motivation is external, I'm going to help somebody move their furniture because they're going to say nice things about me and they're going to give me brownies or whatever. Like, that might have been my external motivation example.
That is my love language. Brownies.
But I'm like, then, because I remember after a Christmas a couple of years ago that, you know, when you're making a gift, like, you got to make the gift and you got to give the gift away, and then you can't be upset if you don't get a thank you for the gift.
I said that. That was me that said that.
Right, when I was crying in the kitchen. Yes, that was
I said that to you.
You said that to me, right? So I'm just saying.
I know how to be healthy.
Right. To somebody you're helping, not to yourself. But.
Well,
go ahead.
And I read that those are exact words, but one of those philosophical books that I read recently talked about that. You know, I wish I could, maybe it was a Book of Joy. I don't know. It could have been that, or it could have been Edward Toll's something or other. But anyway, it was this big thing about you have to learn to, well, some of us come by it naturally, but not me. Anyway, forget all that. You have to do the thing that you're enjoying and then let it go. And they gave that exact example. Like, for example, they used a writer. If a writer feels pushed from inside to write a book, and he works and works and works on it, and then it's done, he then has to let go whether or not anybody appreciates it. And I think that Carol has helped me. Like, I asked her once about, well, what makes a person an artist? And her answer was that for herself, it felt like it was something she had to be doing. Like, it was just something she had to do, you know, that spoke to her. And I don't think, I mean, she's happy if somebody likes something, but that's not why she's doing it. And I don't think it matters all that much if they don't. What matters most is whether she likes it or not. And, you know, so I guess when I see somebody that I could help and I need to help them, it's something I feel called to do. Like, oh yeah, gosh, sure I can do this because I can help somebody, you know? And I think, and not everybody, I guess I've thought in the past that perhaps everybody feels that way and everybody wants that opportunity. But I found that that's not true, and that doesn't make them bad people, and they will help you, you know. But not everyone wants to jump in for all those things and do it. So people just work together in different ways.
I think it's probably a good time to bring all of this back to the original topic, which I don't know. Is there a line directly back to it? No?
No.
So, how did we get here? It was...
Your insecurities.
Right, yes. We covered all of my insecurities for a bit there. That was nice. So, we were discussing how where we're at now. Like, I feel satisfied with where we're at now with the kids, right? Mm-hmm. And at some point, maybe it's because of all the social stuff that I'm getting with the people. Yeah, I don't know if this comes directly back. You don't see it either.
I don't see it.
No. So we went completely off topic. I don't know.
I'm thinking about it if we could find it.
I thought I'd start talking. It would just happen.
You know, I think one thing that makes things easier is, in addition to everything that we mentioned, you know, like the support group and all of that, I also think that as your children grow and as you are there supporting and encouraging and not necessarily trying to train them up a certain way or, you know, bend them some way to your will or something or break their spirit, any of that, then they are developing as people, and it becomes a little bit easier as we know them well to understand them and to understand, since we mentioned it, love languages, and to get to know how things that look difficult when they're 3 or maybe impossible because we really have no idea how their mind is working sometimes, that 5 years later, we've had more experience with them and they're more verbal and we understand how their mind is working. And so that makes it easier to communicate, and they also understand how your mind is working and know how. So I think that might be part of it too. Like I can remember that I felt like I enjoyed my children more every year. I mean, it was so much fun when they were little, but it just got better and better, you know, and telling someone, people who had known my daughter as a small child understood me, but people who were just meeting her, when I'd say, oh my goodness, at 14, she's joy to live with. Some people looked at me like I lost my mind because they weren't enjoying their 14-year-olds. And I really think a lot of it had to be with knowing them. So, yeah, so I do think that there's a reason it gets easier.
Yeah, so it could just be, had to put the man hours in, break through whatever, you know, they're roommates. Even if you just look at them as roommates, if you put in enough time, you start to appreciate what's there and be comfortable with what's not there. You know, whatever the gaps are. That's just where we're at. You know, this is not a character flaw that I have instilled in them. It's not my failings, and it's really not a failing for them. It's just part of who they are, and we can avoid being frustrated about that. Right.
You know, it's interesting when you what you just said. I once asked Roger if he ever got angry with me or mad at me, because there are times when I get a little perturbed with him. And he just looked at me and said, well, no, you know, because now I don't remember how he said it, but it was something like he knew who I was, and he knew me well, and he loved me. And so why would he get mad when I was doing something that was just how I was? You know, like if I get impatient at something, or if I don't even know what, but it's kind of like what you're saying is that, okay, this child does something that if you just walk in on the scene, you might think, oh my gosh, that's so irritating. But when you know the child and you know who they are and what makes them tick and how they operate best, then you love and you just accept that this is who they are, and it doesn't have to, we can choose whether to be irritated or not, even though that seems hard sometimes. But yeah. So
when you discuss it, when you say it that way, I'm sure that Roger gets irritated and or mad with you. But there's a different kind of angry that can happen between two people that don't have a secure bond. So part of, you know, that this advice has been given a long time, but it's not how relationships go during the good times. It's how they go during bad times. Like all of that sort of thing has been said over and over again. And at some point, through just knowing Mari, being comfortable with her, I knew that the angry was going to happen, but at no point would it extend beyond the relationship. All of our emotions and everything will be contained within the relationship. And certainly, building the same sort of relationship with children, they need to know, I need to know that whatever the emotions, high, low, whatever they are, it's all contained within the relationship. And it's not something that can crash down from outside of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But
that was good.
Didn't bring that full circle. I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for the roundup. So we'll go ahead and do our end of show song. Mari?
I was still thinking about things.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she can have something to say. The introvert was thinking.
There was a couple of lead-ins.
Okay, so
okay.
So comparing marriage to having children, especially marriage now versus marriage when we were first married, like there are things that you're right. Like you can't get mad at a bird for flying. Like I made that saying up right now, but
I'm sure no one said that before.
Right? No, but I mean there are things that you may do that if somebody else did it, I would be irritated, but it's you, and I know that's how you operate. Like, you never know what time it is. Like, somehow you have an internal clock so that you get places on time, but I came to understand that as asking, are you aware of the time? Because I didn't want to be a nag. Like, I know you have to be somewhere at 7, and it is now 6:30, and you don't have your shoes on. Like, kind of think. So, but translate that to being as a spouse, that's you, that's the way you are. How can I work with that? If that is a trait that's in my child, is that something that I should work to fix? Like, should I get them a watch? Should I make them wear the watch? Should I tell them what hour it is? Should I set Google to tell them what hour? Like, is that something that I need to improve? Or should I just accept that as that's the way they leave their shoes in the living room? Is that they're always going to leave their shoes in the living room? Or should I work on trying to get their shoes next to the door? You know what I'm saying? Like, with
correcting behavior, especially in children, but I'm sure with everyone, it reminds me a lot of lifting weights. So if you go to the gym and you work out and you raise your bench press from not a lot to a lot, that doesn't mean that you will now go into the woods and be able to throw trees around. Like, it is a specific skill you're training, a specific muscle group doing specific action. So you can teach a child to take those shoes and put them in that place. It will not teach them to clean up. So the amount of effort that goes into training a person to put shoes into a place, I think becomes completely validated when you talk about teaching a person to care for a room.
So, if my children leave their shoes and their dirty underwear and everything around a room, should I just accept that they are messy people? Or should I try to teach them why it's important to be clean and get into a habit of keeping things clean?
Oh, I think that it's important to, I mean, obviously, if I say just let it go, then you can change the story, and we'll come to a point where I'll say, well, you got to change that, right? So at some point, you arrive to a thing that is worth the effort to change it, but you have to understand what is the culprit, right? Like, why is this behavior occurring?
Is it nature or nurture? Is that what we're going to? Like, my kid's a night person. I'm never going to train them out of that. Like, there is something biological hardwired that then they are a night person. But I can train the lazy out of them. I can train the messy out of them. No, I don't. I mean, I don't even think the night person is like. I can train the night person out of them.
So you can discover it's not train. Like, you discover what it is. Like, you know what they're doing. They're a night person. You discover why they're a night person. And then you can try and change it, right? Like, or you can just wake them up in the morning.
Here's my problem.
That's how you cause trauma, I think.
I read a lot of Dear Abby.
That's a huge problem. Is that the end of your sentence?
No. There's more. There is a lot of, should I stay with this person because X, Y, Z? And it's, why is X, Y, Z? Like, is X, Y, Z because that's the way their parents raised them and they don't know any better and you're never going to fix them? Or Is that because that's the way they are and you're never going to fix them? Or are they just ignorant of XYZ, and once you explain it to them, they're going to come around? Like, my husband never loads the dishwasher. Well, why is that?
That's such a, I mean,
that's just, but you know.
Right, so that's such a trivial thing. Bad with, my husband's bad with money. So if a person is bad with money, you can understand what money is, right? Like, money is the resource that you earn from one thing, right? You earn the money, the family earns the money, and that's the resource you gain. And so if you're bad with money, a lot of times it's more the idea that goes behind why you want to spend the money, right? Than it is not knowing how numbers work.
Right.
If you don't load a dishwasher.
But here's the thing.
What?
I don't want my child to grow up and be the spouse that's being written about. I don't want my child's spouse to be like, this person that I married is bad with money, or doesn't contribute to the laundry, or whatever. If I can fix that, fix air quotes, if I can teach them how to be good with money, how to take care of the household, how to be part of a team, whatever, I want to do that. But sometimes I don't know when I'm fighting a losing battle or when it's not worth the battle.
I'm sure there are there are many people that know how to do laundry but don't do laundry.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing a thing does not create the habit to do the thing, right?
Right. But
so you create a toolbox of having perspective, right? And so that they can fix their habit. You don't fix people's habits. No, parents don't fix habits. Like, it just doesn't happen. The person needs to fix the habit.
Well, sometimes, I think that sometimes you can, I think it can be a combination of things. Like, I think that trying to suddenly institute rules where you have to pick these things up may not work. But if somebody explains that, you know, it just really bothers me. I know it's easy for you to just drop your clothes everywhere. But is there any way that you can make, you know, and I don't know, maybe this is bad because it's external motivation, but trying to encourage somebody I would just feel better if I could walk into an empty hallway in the morning instead of seeing clothes thrown all about. Could you put these clothes in a box?
Right.
And they may or may not do it.
It doesn't make your family work better. I think it's worth the effort of putting in to fix the problem. But I don't think that if you have a teenager or a child of any age that throws their clothes all over the place, I don't think that necessarily means that when they're an adult or when they're married or when they have roommates that they will treat the space the exact same way. I'm certain
I would agree with that. Yes, I would completely agree with that.
So
I mean, especially if I think that if you're raising children who are learning to be considerate of others and respectful and who are respected, then when they are living with someone else, they will carry with them the thoughts that I need to respect other people too. And if this bothers this person, then I won't do it, or I'll try to change it, or we'll work something out. I think that it has to do with teaching them to work together as a team. You mentioned that, you know, and so, yeah, I don't think that anything they're doing now necessarily means that they'll do it forever. Yeah, because people can change. They're not, but anyway, I probably need to leave so I can give Dad a call.
Okay.
But, all right, this was a lot of fun. I liked having a topic. It was great to talk with you. Maybe I'll do it next week. Who knows? I don't remember where I'll be then. I don't know where I'll be. Every other week. Okay. I'll talk to you guys later then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Now, did we do the theme song?
Yeah, we didn't have a theme song, right?
It's a roundup. Get it?
Did we come to a conclusion on that other topic that we don't want our children to ruin people's lives?
Was that the topic?
That's what you were saying.
Oh.
Right? You don't want them to be the Dear Abby. So,
right, no, I just...
Does that feel concluded?
I guess I don't know.
Is it the end?
it is the end. Would you like to say good night?
Good night.
Good enough for me.